It is my real pleasure to introduce our sheriff to you. Joe's been working in the sheriff's office since 2003. He's had about every job you can have in and outside of the sheriff's office. Um, over the course of the 20 plus years that I was clerk of court and worked with the various agencies at the courthouse, in the county, in the state, wherever, working with the sheriff's office was the best relationship because these guys were there when we had ugly circumstances in courtrooms because people were angry or just downright violent. Not the lawyers. I had the great fortune of working with a man named Carl Heiner who hired Joe. I worked with Noel Bagwell after Heiner. Excellent, excellent county law enforcement. Joe Harper's the same, cut out of the same cloth, and I was glad that he was elected, and I'm proud to call him my sheriff. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Harper.
See if that volume's good. I have a problem with volume. Like Lisa said, I started in 2003 at the sheriff's office as a jailer. I did that for about 8 months and then moved to dispatch. 2 months after my training began as a jailer, I started training all the new jailers. Kind of continued doing that even when I was in dispatch, trained myself how to dispatch, and then started training all the new dispatchers. And then I went to the field in 2007 and started taking care of a lot of the livestock calls. Gary McInnes kind of took me under his wing with all that stuff because I'd known Gary since I was about 12 or 13 years old. We were involved with horses together. He knew that I came from kind of a ranch type background, so he got me in on that to kind of lighten his load a little bit. And I continue to do all the livestock stuff at the sheriff's office now. I figured out that I'm going to have to train somebody else to do that because I spent Friday hauling horses to Bristow, and I'm probably going to spend tomorrow hauling donkeys and horses to Bristow. We've got, made myself a note here. Just since January 1st of this year, my office has taken 15,613 total calls. I have out of those 15,000, 2,096 of those calls were livestock related. That's with 14 field deputies. I've actually got 15 field deputies. One of them is on a rotation at the front door, so he doesn't go out and work the field. And I've got 2 others that just actually graduated cleat on Tuesday that'll be going to the field. So that'll help out with that. And then we've got 3 investigators. But these guys handle everything. I mean, we do have the 3 investigators, but for the most part, those 15 deputies that I have investigate a lot of their own cases. It averages out to about 1,100 calls per deputy throughout, just total from January to now. And that's a lot of time. So we've had a lot of questions about the medical marijuana stuff. We have it here. I think there's like 202 or 203 total medical marijuana related businesses in Payne County, whether it's a grow house or a dispensary. There's not a lot we can do about it. The way everything's written up, it falls on OMMA and OSBI. OSBI is overwhelmed. They don't have the manpower to deal with it. And it's a whole new business that they're trying to learn how to regulate and do all that stuff with. They are trying. There's talks that they may be putting a 6 or 7 man attachment in this part of the state that we would have access to. For the most part, we haven't had very many dealings with the grow operations that are in the county. We've had one instance that didn't go real well, but there was some shots fired, and we took care of it. I was out there until about 4 o'clock that morning. And the rest of the interactions that we've had have been pretty pleasant. I mean, we just don't know completely what the fallout's going to be. I mean, with wastewater and things of that nature, we just don't know yet. I don't know that anybody's really thought about that and decided to study it. I guess for right now, does anybody have any questions?
Could you explain a little bit more? You mentioned the livestock operations are a large part of your business. What are we talking about? Theft of livestock, you're hauling livestock? What's all that?
So the livestock situation is mainly cattle, horses, goats, pigs out is the bulk of our calls. I know just between January 6th to February 12th, we had 140 cow out calls. So my guys, and sometimes me, go out, and if we've got, for instance, right now I've got 3 donkeys out on the east part of the county, and we go around looking for owners. If we can't find the owners, generally what we do to save the county cost and the potential owner cost, I take those animals to my house and put them in my pens, and I feed them free of charge for the 2 to 3 weeks that it takes to get them published in a newspaper. And then at that point, if we still haven't found an owner, there's a sale date set, and then those animals are sold. It goes into basically a special fund. And if nobody's claimed that those animals were theirs within a year, it goes into the county general pot. That's what that is. Not so much with horses and stuff. We get it with cows a little bit. As much of a pain as it would be really nice if Oklahoma was a brand state. There's a lot of people that have problems reading brands. So usually if an animal does have a brand, I wind up having to go anyway because I've done ranch work and I know how to read brands. I also get the Cattlemen's Association sends me a free brand book every time they update it. So I've got about an inch thick book that's got, I think, 24 people on each page and all the brands and everything, so I can look at it and go through it. And I think I wouldn't even start to guess how many brands are actually in it.
How about theft?
Thefts, if there are any, we haven't had any reported. We've got one case right now that they're thinking maybe 5 head are stolen, but we had the state guys with Texas Southwestern Cattle Raisers come in yesterday and talk at the same time my deputy was there, and he said it really didn't sound like a theft deal to him, but my intentions are to go out there after we get done and kind of take a look for myself. But generally we've caught a lot of cattle thieves coming out of Kansas. I was involved in a deal in 2016. We recovered 35 stolen cows out of Great Bend, Kansas, and about $1.2 million worth of property that was stolen from up there. But that's kind of the cattle livestock deal. The reason for Bristow is Perkins doesn't sell horses, so we have to find a horse sale. Bristow sells horses, donkeys, stuff like that. Pawnee does our sheep and goat sales, and then Perkins does our cattle.
So you said that the deputies have about 1,100 calls, that kind of thing. How do you decide which deputy gets a call? Is it geographical
Basically just next on the list. So I've got, generally speaking, 3 days a week, I've got 4 deputies out. 2 for the east side of the county. 108 is kind of a split for us. That way we can keep guys on the east side of the county. So we've got 2 guys on the east side of the county, 2 guys on the west side of the county, and they just rotate back and forth taking calls. So it's just kind of, if it's like a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, there's 1 guy out on the east side and there's 1 guy out on the west side for 8 hours between 8 and 4 o'clock. So if that's the day that they get 7, 8, 9, 10 calls, they're just kind of stuck. It's that generally when that does happen, it's all on one side of the county or the other. So we'll pull the other guy over and he helps, lighten the load a little bit. But our investigators are real good about going out and helping too, and doing more self-initiated stuff. So that lightens up the load on the actual field deputies quite a bit as well. Anybody else? The Highway Patrol does real well with any livestock calls on the highway. They'll kind of help us out, especially if we're tied up on something. A lot of times they rely on us because they don't have 24-hour coverage where we do. If they get a wreck after midnight, usually it's my guys that are there first. So we work really good together. They back us on calls. There's been several times that, one of our guys has been tied up on one call and then we get a really bad domestic call and that they'll go help us with it. So we work really good together with Highway Patrol. We've hired and kind of moved people around and stuff, but we're just under 100 total people working at the sheriff's office. Yes, about half of those are jail. So we've got 42, I think, certified deputies. Then we've got office staff that's not certified, things like that. Some of the things that we've done recently is we had some retirements in December. So we came in kind of 4 or 5 people low. We've done some hiring. We've got 3 that just graduated from CLEAT. We actually have 4. One is a jailer that is going to stay in the jail and help out with transporting inmates to the hospital and things of that nature, going to the dentist. The 3 that we hired, one is going to go work the front door. One is going to work as a field deputy. And then I just hired a young lady as a transport deputy that just basically travels the country and picks up inmates at one facility and brings them to ours or takes them from our facility to somewhere else. So there's 6 deputies in that division, and then 15 field deputies, 3 investigators. I've got paper service guys. I'm fixing to make a transition where we're going to have a actual certified deputy that's going to start doing the sex offender registry and violent offender registry again. Currently, the lady that does that's not a certified officer, so it makes it really difficult for her to go out and check up on all those people. So we're going to put a certified deputy in there. That way he's got his own car. He can go out and check and make sure people are where they're supposed to be. I was just telling Lisa, they didn't utilize office space very well when they built and remodeled for the sheriff's office. So we've gone in and gutted that and redone that and utilized the space a little better, added more offices upstairs and given people places to work. We've added some new vehicles to our fleet. We're currently still waiting on 5 because of the chip crisis. We can't get vehicles either. We've changed up our the design on our cars. We had the fancy silver stripes down the side where it looks like all the new modern stuff, and we went back to like Carl had it and we just put a star and sheriff on the car. Everybody knows who that is. So, yes, sir.
What's the incidence of thefts in the county? And do you have officers that patrol county roads regularly?
Yes, so theft is one of our big deals. And it falls right into with drug use. I mean, they're stealing from somebody so they can sell it to somebody to make money to buy drugs. We've got guys that run since I've taken over. There's very rarely deputies sitting in the office. They may come in and get a cup of coffee in the morning, see what's going on. Generally within 30 minutes or so, they're out driving around. If they are back at the office, they're typing a report so they can get it turned over to whoever it needs to be sent to. And then they're back out on the road.
What do you do about ambulance service?
So we don't dispatch it. LifeNet for the Stillwater area and Perkins, I guess. And then Cushing has the rest of the county. And we work pretty good with them. We actually Monday, I think it was. I came into town. I finally got my office was the last one to get finished in the remodel. So my wife was helping me hang pictures up there. And I was on my way home and I heard one of the deputies get a call about a young lady that been ran over by a lawnmower. So we met the family. They were driving her towards the hospital and decided it was better if they just stopped and waited for an ambulance. We met that family at Highway 51 and 108 North and stayed there with them and provided, safety for the ambulance service to get in there and do what they needed to do. And if need be, we were prepared to shut the highway down and set up a landing zone for the helicopter. They decided they didn't need that. So it all worked out pretty good. Oh, everything. I mean, I think we've probably domestic abuse. It's getting a lot better now. We've gone through training where our guys understand how to ask the right questions that we need answered in a better way, that it doesn't seem as offensive as it used to, because that's a very touchy subject. But we've gone through a lot of training on that within the last 2 or 3 years. We work very closely with the Seville Center, and we've actually got one deputy that is usually over there 2 or 3 times a day, just checking in, making sure everything's going good. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Methamphetamine's always been a scourge. Is it still a scourge? Has medical marijuana changed that, the personality of who's cooking meth?
No, it's meth still bad. The other hard drugs, cocaine, heroin, stuff like that, are starting to come back now. Don't know if anybody saw it 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think I lose track of time. We did a deal with Stillwater Police Department out on I-35. We used to do them a lot back in the old days. We'd set up what said was a drug checkpoint. Well, it really wasn't a drug checkpoint. It was just to make people nervous. If they've got drugs, they're going to get off the interstate and try to avoid the checkpoint. So we did one of those the other day. Lieutenant Knack said that they probably encountered over 100 contacts with with marijuana, period, whether it was medical or not. They didn't even mess with it. They had already decided they weren't going to even deal with it. They were just going to send them down the road. We wound up getting 4 trafficking cases with heroin, cocaine, things of that nature off of our interdiction deal that we did out on the interstate. I think it was about a month ago, something like that. Yep. Yes, sir.
What are a few things that the citizens of this county would be surprised knowing? About our county? There are things that we don't know that they can probably say.
Probably the main thing is the livestock deal. I mean, we're pretty rural. and you know, we've tried different things. I get an invitation every year to the I gotta say it right, the Payne County Cattle Producers Banquet. And I've set up forums on a table and asked, hey, come by and fill these out. That way we're not calling your neighbor at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's your cow's out. People are real hesitant about that. They feel like it's a way for us to figure out who those belong to so we can start writing tickets. And we're not going to do that. I mean, if it really becomes a problem, we will. But that's probably the biggest thing. I think for the most part, and maybe I'm wrong and just assume that everybody knows what I know because I've done it for almost 20 years, but I feel like everybody kind of sees and knows what's going on, especially with Facebook and the way it is now, and everybody kind of the crime watch groups and everything. I think that would be the biggest thing that everybody just doesn't realize that we do. I feel like everybody kind of already knows that we've got theft problems and we've got drug problems, and we're never going to get rid of them, but we just keep fighting it. Yes, sir.
What is getting sold out there? It sounds like it's not necessarily livestock. Is it construction materials, price increases, or is that too sophisticated for the average? Anything that's not nailed down?
Pretty much. I mean, it's random stuff. It's stuff that, you know, you go one time and they've stolen a bunch of battery operated power tools, you know, like circular saws and sawzalls and drills and stuff like that. And then you go another time and they've just taken random junk that is no value to anybody, and their brains just fried. I mean, it's literally vehicles. We have a lot of stolen vehicles. A lot of them come out of the city limits, and we wind up getting them out in the county, figuring out one of my investigators actually spent about 2 days in Tulsa trying to track down a stolen vehicle. And we found one of them, and then it led us right back to Payne County again. So we were out on a search warrant yesterday. And that's probably something that the county probably doesn't realize. And it's not necessarily, it's probably different than the way you asked it, but I'm not going back to Carl Heiner. I don't sit in the office very much. So if you try to call me and I'm not, and they tell you I'm not there, we get you to his voicemail. I'm really probably not there. I go out and drive around a lot. I bought a truck in March, and I've already got almost 12,000 miles on it. I don't sit. They would rather me be outside of the office because I find things to do at the office. And we've revamped a lot of things up there. We've built buildings. We've remodeled buildings. We've tore cars apart and put bumpers on them. And we're just trying to upgrade the whole department. I mean, from the simple office furniture to vehicles, everything, we're getting it to where it's more functional for us. Yes, sir.
Budget, the source of the funds for this.
So our annual budget's roughly $8 million a year. Some of our budget comes from the county. The rest of it comes from fees that we collect from serving warrants, serving papers, things of that nature. We don't get a bunch of money for writing people tickets. I think the county gets $5.
Very
Yeah.
very little.
Yeah. The rest of it goes to state. We don't get that. So we really don't write a whole lot of tickets. I mean,
But they never did.
right. Yeah. We're not big into writing tickets. If we can stop somebody and have a talk and it corrects the issue, that's what we're about.
I got a question. I've worked with law enforcement for 30 years, loved every day of it because there's just guys out on the road, and usually it's one guy with one car and with one firearm and his wit taking on whatever it is that you drive up to.
Mhm.
I got a picture of a couple of little horses in the backseat of an old car that one of the troopers brought me one time and said, "You got to look at this," and he had a great story. Have you got one of those "you got to be kidding" stories already?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I've had people call me when I was a field deputy to come help them catch snakes out of chicken houses. And I mean, and I did it. I mean, I'm from originally, so I haven't lived in Payne County my entire life. I moved over here when I was 5 years old. I'm from Northwest Oklahoma, up around Woodward. So my dad used to take me when I was little with him and all his buddies to rattlesnake hunts and that kind of thing. So snake deal wasn't a big deal. So we've had that kind of stuff. We've had, man, well, Fuzz had the monkey.
You gotta tell me
Yeah.
that one.
Well, we get a call that, man, it was years ago. I think I was still in dispatch. Get a call that there's this monkey that I want to say it was in somebody's house or something. It got loose from somewhere. He really did. We've got a picture at the office of one of those little monkeys likes on TV that's sitting on Fuzz's shoulder, in his white, polyester shirt, his cowboy hat. And we've loaded goats in the back of patrol cars to haul them to wherever we could to get them put up. We've kind of had to make do with what we could for a long time. I hauled a goat a while back because I didn't want to hook onto a stock trailer to haul one goat to Pawnee. I took it's like a plastic container inside of a metal basket sort of thing. I pulled the plastic out of it and used the aluminum rack to haul a goat and just put ratchet straps over the top of it to hold it down. And then I got going down the road and the goat's trying to stand up out through it. I thought he was going to jump out, but he didn't. He finally just stood still and we drove to Pawnee like that. Anybody else?
Thank you, Sheriff Harper. Stillwater